Likkutei Torah, Parshas Balak, page 140, top of the page. Okay, the pasuk says, "Lehibit oven b'Yaakov, v'leira amol b'Yisrael." It means Hashem didn't see any evil in Yaakov, any transgressions, or either one would both ways. He didn't see any transgressions amongst the Jews, and he didn't see any evil in Yisrael. But he says, "Lehibit oven b'Yaakov," the name Yaakov, "Leira amol b'Yisrael." So he uses again like Matov Yaakov. He says Yaakov in Yisrael. So he says, "Hine yesh beis b'chinas madreges l'maylo." There's two levels up there. There's a level of Yaakov and the b'chinas Yisrael, because we find that the Gemara says that once Hashem changed Avram Avinu's name from Avram to Avraham, and the pasuk says "Le'yikari eit shimcha Avram kim Avraham," so the Gemara says whoever calls Avram transgresses a negative commandment, because it says you shouldn't be called anymore Avram. So the Gemara says if that's the case, by Yaakov Avinu it also says that your name should not be called Yaakov, only Yisrael. So the Gemara answers because in the same pasuk, the next pasuk right afterwards, Hashem calls him Yaakov again. In Chumash, once Avram was changed to Avraham, he was never called Avram. Yaakov and Yisrael, even in this pasuk, Leira Avim b'Yaakov, Leira Amel b'Yisrael, Matei v'Lacha Yaakov, Mishkinisachi Yisrael, all the way back in Parshas Vayishlach, when Hashem changed the name, the next pasuk calls him Yaakov again. Okay, so obviously Chassidus explains that there's two levels. There's a level of Yaakov and there's a level of Yisrael, and both levels coexist. Shem Gam came based b'chinas shenis b'avedas Hashem. This div which represents two levels of Aveda, the level of Eved, b'chinas ben, son and Eved. Now Yaakov means Akev, heel, which is the lowest part. Yisrael is, switch around the letters, you have Li Rosh. It's a head. Head is the level of Ben, of a child, and Yaakov is the level of Akiv, meaning Kabbalah's oil, which represents the level of Eved. So you have the level of, like we say, Avinu, Malkeinu. We have both Avedas. Shem Gam, okay. Hainu, B'chinas Yaakov is the level of Eved, like the pasuk says, Shma ele Yaakov Avdi. It says, by Yaakov uses the word Shema ele Yaakov Avdi. Yaakov, my servant, listened to me. So Yaakov is called Eved. B'chinas Yisrael is Ben, like it says, B'ni B'chayr Yisrael. So we find Yisrael is called Ben, and Yaakov is called Eved. To understand what this means, that Yisrael is Ben, and Yaakov is Eved, what does the word Eved mean? In Avedas Hashem, what does it mean in Eved? Eved comes from the word Avodah, right? That we serve Hashem. Like it says, the pasuk says you should you should serve Hashem. It says Tachas Shli Avada. As Hashem al-Kacha. And it says, all these plukim, we find a Yid has to serve Hashem in the word of Avodah, which is the word Eved. What does Avodah mean? Is the concept of fixing and serving. The Eved serves his master, and he fixes things. Shadav, meaning the Rab tzarich l'tikkun v'shirus. When you say it needs to be fixing, okay, let's explain this a little bit. Eved means avodah. Eved means a servant. Eved, we learned many times. One of the lamitas malachis is called ma'abed, mem ayin beis dalid, which means tanning the hide. That means the word Eved means actually what's the definition of tanning a hide? You kill an animal, you shecht it, whatever. The skin is, the leather is gross. You can't use it. So what do? They tan the hide. They make it into parchment, into leather, into usable stuff. That means the level of ma'abed means eved, which is the root of the word eved. You take something which is non-usable, because it's too coarse, and you make it work. You make it better. That means when you say an eved of a master, that means two things. The master needs to be served. That means without the eved, the master won't have it. And not only that, the eved actually refines the master. That's what he's just saying. Now he's explaining it. Tikun v'shirus, fixing and serving. She'eved misharis l'Rabbi, the eved serves his master. U'mesakan leidavar sha'rab tzarech tikun v'shirus. So he says, so l'chayra, what does it mean? If an eved means the master is lacking something that I need to fulfill for him as an eved, so that Rabbi says, Eich shayach lemekin l'gadish baruch hu, how can you say that we serve Hashem? So Yisbarach Shlima, the Kul Hashem is the ultimate completeness. Hashem doesn't need anybody. So if we're serving Hashem, Vavadatam as Hashem, Elokeichem, or Ivdos Hashem, whatever it is, and it means we have to fix Hashem and serve Hashem, that means he's lacking something and we have to give it to him. How can you say that by Hashem? How can you have an eved of Hashem that would imply that Hashem is missing and we have the eved fix, we fix it? Everything comes from Hashem. And it says a full pasuk, if you do righteousness, you're giving him anything, you sin, you go against him, it has nothing to do with us. So l'cheira, what is the meaning an eved? We are eved Hashem. So he says, it's not what the Medrash says. Hashem wanted a dwelling place down here, which means, really, there is no such thing as higher or lower. When you say that Hashem wanted a dwelling place in a low place, that means there's higher and there's lower. If there's higher and lower, that means there are changes. There's a higher and a lower. So there's changes in him. There's no change by Hashem. Just like before the world was created. The only thing that existed was Hashem and his name. And it's interesting, he uses the expression, tens of thousands of years before creation. And said, because man is also creation of Hashem. Okay, and he says, keep the parentheses, the same thing Hashem will be after the world's destroyed. So l'chayra, how can you say meaning there was a higher level, now there's a lower level, and Hashem wants a dwelling place? The reality is in the Hashem l'shanisi, because before the world was created, there was no time. It was only what's called, he calls it in the parentheses, Seder Zmanim, whatever. So he says, even when the world does exist in time and place, nothing exists. Like it says, okay? So l'chayra, but he says like this, that's from Hashem's perspective. From Hashem's perspective, Ani Hashem L'Shanisi, he's the level before world, the level after world. The whole world doesn't exist. There is no world. Avol Etzleinu, but as far as our perspective, Nechshav Liyesh V'dav B'fnei Atzmei, the world does seem to be a separate entity. Or Master Elokus, and it conceals godliness. Therefore, this world is called Olam. What does Olam mean? How Shemahelim Shemaylim Elokusim Astiri. It's covering and concealing God. Why is world called Olam? It's a concealment of God. And Chassidus explains even Atzilus is called Olam Atzilus Because compared to the infinite level of Elokus, higher than Atzilus, where there's no 10 and there's no nothing, there's only Elokus, now that Atzilus, yes, it's a world which is godly. It's infinite. But it's still Chesed infinite, Gvura infinite, Tiferes infinite. But there's 10 levels, and not 11. So even Atzilus, compared to higher than Atzilus, is called Olam. It's a concealment of godliness. So he says like this, that like we learned already, there's Hashem's perspective, there is no world. If there's no world, then Hashem doesn't change, because there's no world to change in. From our perspective, there are differences in the world. So therefore, what does it mean? So why did Hashem create a world? Meaning, why did Hashem create a concealment of godliness? Because Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu Yaseidir B'Tachteinim Pirush Ki Eilam Hazeh, this world, physical world, or Eilam HaYesed Tachtin, is the lowest of all worlds, right? Nasi is the lowest, and now it's Gashmi is the Kasfiyah. Shehelam B'Yesed, the Helam, the concealment is more. V'Acheshach Kafam Uchup, and the darkness is doubled and double darkness. V'zel Pirush B'Tachteinim. That's what it means B'Tachteinim. The Alter Rebbe asks in Tanya, when the Alter Rebbe calls to Smedrish, in the Sava Kodesh Baruch Hu Dir B'Tachteinim, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya asks this question. L'cheira, how can you say by Hashem the word Tachteinim if he's all over? Higher means closer, lower means further. If Hashem's all over, there's no higher or lower. So he explains, because Hashem made it that from our perspective, we don't see Elokus. And what does Hashem want? That in a world which is so concealed, that somebody can chas v'sholom say there is no God, I made myself, like Pari said, in that world, meaning from our perspective, it's the lowest of the low, that there is no awareness of Hashem, godliness whatsoever. In that world we created the Tachteinim. What?
Our service to Him.
Yes. That's our Avodah. As he says, "V'zeu pirush tachteinim ki ein shaykh ma'elo matal gabi Kodesh Baruch Hu." There's no higher or lower by Hashem, because He's not in the realm of Mokim at all. Therefore, el tachteinim ratzaleimar eitzim ribei alomes v'asteidim. In a world full of concealment, meaning, from Hashem's perspective, there's no tachteinim, there's no low worlds. It's all Elokus the same. From our perspective, Elokus is so concealed that we don't see Him. Aidei tzimtzumim rabim vo'elam hashav, the lowest of all worlds. And there, v'sham dafka, in that world, yeh b'chinas dira v'izgalus Elokus, b'yediyah shalonu, that we should become aware. You know, das tachtein is our perspective. Hashem wanted, in our perspective, we should have this full understanding and awareness of godliness.
Who created our perspective?
Hashem.
So He knows about our perspective.
Of course He knows. The pasuk says in Shmuel, we say it in Rosh Hashanah Haftarah, Ki kel deis Hashem. Hashem is a God of deis, plural. So what do you mean plural? What do you mean day, plural? So Hashem, Chassidus explained. There's Hashem's perspective, and there's our perspective. But our perspective is Kel Deus Hashem. Hashem made our perspective. He made the concept of Tzimtzum. He made a concept of a world that there's no awareness of godliness whatsoever. And in that world,
He wants to do it.
that from our perspective should be a dir b'tachteinim. Not that He does it. From His perspective, there's no tachteinim. There's a world. That's it. Godliness. Did we finish the Maimah yet? Duh. First of all, it doesn't answer the question. But what's your problem why it doesn't answer? I mean, what's the issue?
It says that Evet Hashem, that Hashem needs us to be Evet. It doesn't mean anything for us to be Evet Hashem.
Yeah.
Then it came into perspective.
If Hashem wants something for us to accomplish, yes, because He wanted it, did He create something that He needs? Yeah, he wants a dira b'tachteinu, that we have to do it.
And we are able to do it because...
We're able to do it, but the point is, yes, then I want something. Yeah? That means I'm lacking it, I want it. So by me, what I want, I don't have.
Right.
But what happens if I have it? So why would I want it? Correct? Hashem has it. But Hashem wants to create a need. Not that he needs it. Hashem wants that we make a dira b'tachtenim. So therefore Hashem created a need that he doesn't have. Not because he really doesn't have it. I don't have it, because I said so. If I say, I don't see you, yeah? It's not that really I don't see you. I chose not to see you. God forbid, a person's blind, then they don't see you. Yeah? But if I close my eyes and say, I can't see you, it's not that you can't. You don't want, because if you could, you open up your eyes, you'll see me. So Hashem created a need. Now, if Hashem created a need, then we fulfill that need. But again, not chas v'sholom, he's missing something. When I say I need something, that means I'm missing it and I need it. Hashem says I need it not because I'm missing it, because this is what I want. Nisava. He has a taiva. So the question was answered. Just for the record. But he's not done yet.
Does it pain him when we don't do it?
Yes. Does it pain a father when the child doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing? It pains if he's a normal father, it pains the father, yeah? Why in Gashmias is the father pained by the son not doing what they should be doing? Because in Ruchnias, everything has a Ruchniistic source. So in Ruchnias, because Hashem is pained when we don't do things. Imei anechi b'tzara. I am with you in the tzara, in the problem. Of course it pains Hashem. But only in the level of Hashem that's involved in the world that he created with this need. But like you said, you do good, you don't do anything to Hashem. But which level of Hashem don't we do anything to? The level of Hashem that's higher than world. The level of Hashem that lowered himself into world and concealed himself and hid himself, in that level of Hashem, we do accomplish. We create what he wants. We do what he wants.
So Hashem wants his parnasah to be given to him by the Israel.
Correct. That's what we said about 30 times in different words, yeah.
Not that he wants that, not that he needs it, but that's his that's
His desire is that he needs it.
How do we know there is no lower than this?
You want to find one? Dir betachteinu, shein tachten lamata imenu. This is the lowest of all worlds.
Wow.